Our speaker, who's been waiting patiently below these many moments, Catherine Jewell, a good friend of Launchpad, a very frequent speaker, and always a draw, as you can see. Catherine wants everyone to grow and prosper in their career. She is the career passion coach, a trainer, and a professional speaker. She works with midlife job seekers who want to up-level their job position, change careers, or just find a new job. Through her workshops and coaching, she has helped more than 3,000 business professionals create and find new, more satisfying work. A career changer herself, she holds a degree in broadcast journalism. Her career includes stints with ABC Broadcasting, several magazines, and an advertising agency. She also has worked as the marketing director for a national CPA firm. She successfully made a switch into the training profession by networking and informal training and became a training director for a division of the Principal Financial Group. She's the author of 3 career books, including the new ebook, Empowered Networking. You can find more information at careerpassioncoach.com. With no more delay, let me introduce Catherine Jewell. So nice to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to be here today. I love Launchpad, and thank you so much, Kathy, for creating it and for being my friend these 25 years.
Growing all together.
I first came to Austin 25 years ago thinking I was going to be a trainer, and very soon switched to career coaching. And so this year is my 25th anniversary as the career passion coach. So I'm going to hopefully give you some information today, some of it you know, but I want to remind you of a lot of things about the search process that you may have not have thought of recently. So I am going to switch to my slideshow here. And there we go. Okay. So I'm calling this time that I've recently spent a sofa sabbatical. And I want to tell you how I got back to work working from the sofa. And so first of all, I want to introduce myself a little bit and just say that I became a career passion coach after doing so many other jobs. And I found my passion at about age 48. So if you haven't found yours yet, there's still plenty of time. So the reason I'm talking about a sofa sabbatical is that 12 weeks ago, I had an accident. I was on a beautiful cruise ship in Glacier Bay, Alaska. And if you don't know Glacier Bay, there's no civilization there. It is a park, a national park. And that day that we were supposed to be at Glacier Bay, the entire day, I fell and broke my femur and my hip. And so I spent 30 hours in extreme pain in the bowels of that ship on morphine until we could get to Ketchikan, where I had emergency surgery. And actually, all of that went very well. What didn't go so well is the trip home. I came home on July 3rd and spent 16 hours in airports trying to get from Seattle to Austin. So this whole experience, I think, is probably one of the toughest of my whole life. And I've learned so much about myself and about the recovery process. And so I want to talk to you about what I've learned and also compare it to a job loss. And before we do that, I just would like to see some hands go up. Can you relate? Would you raise your hand if you can relate to being literally out of commission for a period of time, either because of your own illness or the illness of a family member, or even just a job loss? Yeah, that's a pretty good amount of people who can relate directly to this. And I think job loss and illness can really be connected, because a job loss can literally make you sick. My clients have complained of anxiety and depression. Some of them have unhealthy weight loss, or in the case of my husband, unhealthy weight gain during a job loss. Some people have paranoia. And then, of course, if you have all those emotional things going on, it's also very likely that it's going to raise your blood pressure. Some people have heart attacks. They have sleep disorders. Job losses are just plain tough. And you need to plan a comeback just the way that I had to plan a comeback from my physical trauma. And so it's really, really important that you do that. Now, I've also done some research on this and found that job loss is actually, for most people, worse than losing a spouse. And it affects men more adversely than women. And I think it's because men actually get a lot of their ego from the job that they have, whereas women tend to think of themselves perhaps as a mother and grandmother first, and a spouse, and then their professional persona. But I think it really affects everyone, and men more than women, because it feels like a betrayal. And a job loss also robs you of a critical social outlet. Even if you're not an outgoing person and you're pretty introverted, being part of a work community is absolutely, for most people, the only social community that they have. And so you really are losing more than just your income when you lose a job. You lose your peace of mind, you lose your social outlets. And I don't need to tell you this because you're experiencing this yourself right now, probably. And so it's just as real as physical trauma, injury, illness, surgery, and all of those. So how did I come back? Well, it actually took 5 steps, and I'm going to go through these with you. So you don't need to worry about what's on this slide, except you're welcome to have my slides. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is slowing down and then realizing that you are valuable. Listen to your body and your mind. Set a daily schedule and make sure that you keep up with your family and friendships. So the first thing I think I needed to do was slow down. I mean, I had a physical injury that caused me to require a lot of pain medication. And I had to realize that I was only awake for 3 or 4 hours a day in the beginning. And it was limited what I actually could do. The other thing that I had to realize is that I shouldn't do emails during this time because otherwise I would need a designated email reader to help me not make a fool of myself by misspelling words or misstating things on emails. So for a period of 4 weeks, I just had my vacation message up and asking people to realize that I couldn't get back to them by email. And I said to everyone, if you really need to reach me, text me, because I'm sitting on the sofa and I have my phone beside me and I'm looking at phone or at texts, whereas the emails are piling up in the hundreds and even got up to over 1,000. And so you just have to realize, are you emotionally capable enough to do what you normally do? And if you're not, give yourself a little bit of time to get back. The average job search takes 6 months. That is a national number, and it has not changed with the wonderful job market we supposedly have right now. And most of my clients are searching for 6 months. So you have to start planning right away for alternative sources of income. And I love the fact that Kathy talks about applying for unemployment. You just have to, and you have to cut back on your lifestyle immediately in order to survive this time. Now, a lot of people will get jobs within 90 days, but I consider 90 days a very quick job search. So what are some of the hacks to slow you down? Well, of course, one of the hacks that I used was lots and lots of naps and some physical therapy to kind of build myself back physically. And I really believe that all job seekers need to have an exercise outlet to help them cope with the sadness. So those are very important. The other thing to remember is you're a very valuable person with or without a job. People in your life are depending on you. They depend on your wisdom, on your friendship. They depend on everything that you give that's maybe not physical. You know, maybe you aren't able to cook, or you aren't able to clean house the way you used to, especially after an injury or an illness. But people are depending on you to be there. And so don't retreat, but be with the people who love you and care about you. And get really clear on the value that you have, not only for your family, but also in the marketplace. So one of the most important things you can do is determine, what is my next move and what is the current value of that job in the marketplace. And so one of the things I'd like Shannon to put in the chat, if you would, is salary.com, which is one of my favorite places to go to find job ladders, find out what is the job title above what the job title I used to have, and what is that currently paying in my marketplace. So get clear on where you want to go. Now, the normal thing for people to do is to say, well, you know, I'm willing to start over, or I'm willing to start at the bottom, or whatever. And I always tell my clients, no. If you are worth $80,000 or $100,000 or $120,000 in your last job, you are worth that in your next job. So don't immediately degrade yourself, because it's very common that people do that after a major loss like this. And then third, of course, you can connect from the sofa. Use your smartphone to connect with people. If you have the energy, use your smartphone to do your emails. But if you're on drugs, as I was for the first 4 weeks, you want to make sure that you check and recheck those, or don't do email messages while you're still on drugs. By the way, I'm pretty proud of the fact that I was given oxycodone, which is very addicting. And I took that for 2 weeks and then went to see my orthopedic surgeon here in Austin. And they gave me codeine, and that's what I had for the next 2 weeks. And then after 4 weeks, I was on Tylenol only. And so I'm really proud of being able to wean myself off of those drugs. And I frankly really noticed a difference in my alertness. And so another tip is, if you are taking antidepressants, you're going to notice a major change in your alertness factor. So you have to be extra careful about your communications during that time when you're medicated. So what are some mental health hacks? Well, obviously, this might be a good time to get a counselor or a coach to help you through whatever you're going through. And then, of course, a support group is going to be something like Launchpad Job Club, but also could be your own little support group. And I know that in the past, Launchpad Job Club has buddied people up and suggested, well, you 3 people be a mastermind. And so try to get a little support group going. My support group happened to be a neighbor who had not hip surgery, but double knee replacements. And so we had a lot of the same issues. And she helped me decide what I was going to ask for from my physicians and so forth. And then if it's a job search, your buddies are going to help you with job leads and everything else. The number one thing is you've got to get good rest and sleep. And I'm a chronic insomniac, and I actually have 4 different sleep disorders. And I have been working with a sleep doctor for years. So if you are not sleeping, I would suggest you have a sleep study and actually get diagnosed and figure out why you can't sleep. Because when you rest, your mental faculties refresh, and that keeps you sane. If you think about when people are taken as prisoners of war, the first thing they do is sleep deprive them, because it literally makes people crazy to be sleep deprived. So please take care of yourself in the realm of sleep. And then, of course, I already talked about medication, and then meditation and prayer are very, very important. And one of my favorite websites is called Calm. And you can get the Calm app and use it for free for 30 days. And it has all types of meditations. It also has sleep stories to put you to sleep. It is so robust. It is totally worth the money. And then there's a younger version out there that's called Headspace. And they will teach you how to meditate. And then you can, through the app, actually have a guided meditation. People always say, I've tried meditation and it doesn't work. And I would say meditation always works. We just think it doesn't work. Because everyone is jittery and everyone has a hard time quieting their mind. And I've been meditating for 30 years, And I will tell you, I still have what I would consider bad meditations and really good ones. So it, it kind of depends on the day, but meditation has just saved me so many times. And then I already mentioned exercise. And then one of my favorite ways to turn off my worry machine is binge watching. And so with my last surgery, I watched all of Downton Abbey in 1 week. And that was, I think, 5 or 7 seasons. And then in this surgery, I binge watched Grey's Anatomy from the very first episode all the way up through 16 seasons. So the binge watching of a favorite program can really kind of help you turn your mind somewhere else and quit worrying so much. So you want to listen to your body. And of course, for me, this was really hard because I'm an up and atom kind of person. And it was really a shocker to me that I needed to sleep 16 hours a day. I couldn't believe it, but I enjoyed it. And every time I woke up, I had a little less pain and I felt a little bit better. So you want to figure out what is the best time of day for me personally to work. So for me personally, it's like 7 a.m. till 10 or 11, and then I'll have lunch and take a nap. So you want to adjust your schedule so that it works with your body, because your emotional trauma of losing a job is affecting your body. And there's no question about that. If you go to a therapist, they will tell you that. So you want to also be really proactive as a patient. If you're still seeing a doctor for anything, make a list. When I had my telemedicine visit with my general practitioner after the surgery, I had a list of 6 things that I asked the physician's assistant about. And bless her heart, she helped me with every one of them. And then, are you being proactive as a job seeker? And I'll talk about how to do that later. So all of these are just everyday little hacks that you can develop that help you. One of the things I realized is that I really enjoyed showering every day and putting on a little bit of makeup. And then I'd put my, my sweats back on and go sit on the sofa. But it just made me feel better to be clean and, to feel better. And so you need to do anything you can to make you feel like the Superman over here on the right. So then one of my really important things is to set a daily schedule. So in the beginning, before, when you had a job, your schedule looked like this. It had all these meetings and commitments. Well, what I'm suggesting is that when you have a job-free schedule, it looks like this. And then how you fill it is completely up to you. And there is some comfort of having a pattern. And so because my husband is still working, I would get up with him at 7 and, take a shower and go back to the sofa. And then maybe at 11, have lunch and so forth. So having a schedule is really, really important. And then one of the things that I have noticed with my clients is they work like crazy over the weekend. And I don't get that. If you're job free, why aren't you giving yourself weekends? Why don't you give yourself, holidays? Of course you can have those. And I love the fact that Kathy still has her list. of how you can have fun without much cost. And my suggestion is that you schedule one fun thing that you can manage every single week. So for us, it was inviting our neighbors over for dinner. And my neighbor said, well, I don't expect you to cook. And so she brought dinner, and the four of us had a really fun dinner. And then we put a great movie on and watched a movie together. So there's so many ways you can really have fun without a lot of expense. And so now I come to a sample schedule for job-free days. So you notice this couple is walking in the park with their daughter. Don't forget that your family deserves your time too. And so you want to figure out, how can I give my family more time while I'm looking for a job or recovering? So this is my sample schedule, and you'll notice that 7 to 9 a.m. is for a little bit of exercise, prayer, meditation, coffee, breakfast, whatever you want to do. The first 2 hours of the day belong to you. And then I suggest, if you're looking for a job, you spend 9 to 11 on the computer and really hit it hard for 2 hours and then stop. So break for lunch with your family. If you need a nap, take a nap. Whatever, give yourself a break. One of my fun things to do is I take Us and People magazines. So my guilty pleasure is having lunch and reading a magazine. And then from 1 to 3, you could nap or do a home project. And, if you're an unemployed man of the house, you're probably building a deck or repainting or doing something. So allow yourself time for your home project. And then I would say go back to job seeking and networking from 3 to 5. So that gives you 4 solid hours of job seeking every day. And it gives you a boundary. When do I quit? Because if you don't quit job seeking, you are going to drive yourself nuts. I have one client who is very nervous and very concerned, and he's not getting much traction in the job market. And he calls me every Friday, and he's absolutely desperate. And once I gave him this schedule, he quit being so scared, and he was actually starting to make some progress on his job search. Because I'll tell you what, recruiters can smell desperation. You do not want to get yourself emotionally desperate. Then I suggest you give yourself the entire evening from 5 to 10 p.m. and then have an established bedtime. So I want to get some reactions to this schedule. I want to hear what people think about having a schedule like this. Is anybody willing to unmute and tell us what you think?
I certainly will, Catherine.
Yeah, tell us.
I'm Christy. I can't see anybody else, so I don't know if they can see me, but thank you for this. This is actually an enormous game changer for me because I have not been able to implement this for myself. And like you said, I have been going a little crazy. And without the boundary of when to stop and when to start and how to structure chunks of your day to be dedicated to really deep work, whatever that work is, everything feels overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And, with no boundaries, it just it envelops you. And I have felt enveloped by anxiety all the time because I don't know how to turn it off, because I feel as if every moment of my day I should be doing more than I'm currently doing.
Right.
That is just a slippery slope down the endless rabbit hole of anxiety. So thank
Great.
you. This is wonderful, and it is exactly what I needed today.
Oh, I'm so glad. And, I actually use this too in my illness time, because I would actually go to my computer, and in the early days, I could only sit there for 45 minutes
Mm.
because my back would start to hurt, and I would, several times I fell asleep at my computer.
Mm.
And so I just said, I can't do this.
Right.
I'm going to go take a nap.
Right.
And the hardest part is giving yourself permission. And that was the hardest part for me, because I felt like I've got to something. So anybody else want to comment?
I will say this: when I taught job search strategy classes at Workforce, part of what I did was a strategy about how to plan your day, and how to incorporate exercise and networking and that sort of stuff all into it. But I also suggested that people set for every day one or two things that were doable, that before I quit my work day, my job search day, I want to accomplish this. Like I want to send out that resume, or I want to connect with 5 new people on LinkedIn. I would make sure to advise them to do things that were doable, were achievable. So I have a tendency to have a to-do list that I will never finish my to-do list. And so every day is a failure because I don't get through my to-do list. And so I would say, and as soon as you have an end of your day, my end of my job search day is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I want to make sure I get my one thing done by 3 o'clock. And then at 3 o'clock, that's my time. That's permission to read a book. That's permission to go outside and take a walk. That's permission to take a nap. That's permission to, whatever, because my job search day is over at 3 or whatever.
Right.
It's just like your job, looking for a job is a job. So what's your job from 10 to 3? You do 5 hours a day. It's a pretty decent job. Rick, were you about to say something? I thought I saw you inhale.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Very observant. Yeah, I love this schedule. Thank you, Catherine. I might just copy that schedule. It is something, I don't know if I don't have the self-discipline or not, but one of the advantages I think of actually having a schedule that you follow, because when I'm working, you have a schedule, and you get kind of used to it. Now everything's like, well, if you don't have a schedule, I find I'm constantly feeling guilty about, I should be doing this, or I need to, and I also make lists every morning, all right, this is what I need to do. And then, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work. It's like, oh man, that's right. I didn't do my list. I was going to do this. And so thank you very much. I do need to do a schedule, and I think that would help me navigate things. Thank you.
Good. Well, I just love the idea too that Kathy proposed, and that is that you just have 2 or 3 things that you want to do in the next day, and you can actually set those before 5 o'clock, before you stop, with the job seeking and the networking, and just write them down for the next day. Just 1 or 2 things. Oh, well, I'm going to apply for this job, and I'm going to see if I can find the hiring manager for that job. And of course, as Kathy trains you in LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a wonderful database to just use to research, and research about how many jobs there are in each category, each job title. sometimes I'll go in with a client and we'll take project manager Austin and then look and see, oh, well, there's 3,600 jobs. But if you do program manager, there are fewer jobs, but they're higher paid. And so, there's just so much you can do on your computer that's not directly job seeking, but makes you a smarter job seeker.
Ruth Ann also has her hand up.
Okay.
Hey guys, I just thought, since someone else mentioned it also, we're all in different situations and we all need to take those into account. And aside from possibly being ill ourselves, when you're a caregiver for a family member and you don't have any choice about it and you have a lot to manage, I really like the idea. I started getting up at a set time now. I've moved my mother myself from North Carolina to here, set her up in assisted living. Now I'm working on her medical health. But it's been very time consuming. Just closed on selling her house and had to sell 2 cars and much of her belongings. And there's so much involved in that. And I realized I needed to do some time blocking for myself, because then I got COVID and just too much. And I felt overwhelmed and the job search is looming over me. I need to find something that's somewhat flexible. But my point is, I think what I hear a lot of the time is we forget we're human beings with lives and with families. And, the more guilt you dump on yourself, and boy, I love that statement about not giving ourselves permission, because for me, that's the hardest challenge. If I'm seriously working on a job search for 4 hours a day, that is a lot of time. To me,
And that's enough.
For
It
me,
really is enough.
that's adequate time. However, the trap I fall into is not being distracted by anything outside of that focus, not being distracted by phone calls, social media, random emails, not being distracted by those, and solely doing a search for 4 hours. That's totally enough time to accomplish something. So I think we're people and we have lives. And the older I get, the more I notice that. And we need to cultivate those lives. Or I know for me, my self-esteem can get low enough where I start thinking, well, who's going to want to hire me anyway? And that's the wrong direction. So that's why I came here to hear you. And I really needed to hear that. Thank you.
Well, that's great. I thank you so much for sharing that and bringing up the idea of caregivers. Caregivers are chronically sick themselves because of all that they are giving to other people, and they're not taking care of themselves. And so the caregiver needs to get relief, babysitter, if you will, or a sitter, so that they can get out and take care of themselves. And so I'm really glad you brought that up. And I want to kind of segue into, how do you deal with this sabbatical on your resume? Because for some people, it's going to be as long as 2 years. If they're a caregiver, it could be 4 years, it could be a long time. So how do you deal with the sabbatical on your resume? And I have had clients put it, number one, they put in their latest consulting projects. And that's where Leap to Success comes in, and other kinds of things like that. But the number 2 one, which is the filler for those blank years, we have just put sometimes family sabbatical. or caregiver sabbatical, 18 to 22. And recruiters are a lot more understanding of these things than they used to be. And I just would like your opinion about that, Kathy, on how to deal with that sabbatical. Obviously, you're not going to call it a sofa sabbatical, but how would you deal with it on a resume?
I generally advise people to say family sabbatical or personal sabbatical or something like that. I went to a professional women's group, and one of the speakers had taken, I think it was something like 8 years off to raise kids. I think she had come from Dell, and she put family sabbatical, and then underneath that she put all the leadership roles she had for being a president of the PTA and supervising various projects and things like that. But I've also seen people put down bulleting under family sabbatical or whatever, classes that they took, things they did to keep their skills up.
Right.
And really just minimizing that, where you don't really go into a lot of detail at all. If you have an accomplishment portion, or you emphasize your recent professional development and just kind of leave that small, that's also a way to do it, where you minimize the impact of that and emphasize the other things that you've done to skills wise. And volunteering can go in there as well. Just as regular work experience. It's experience. It doesn't matter if you're paid $100,000 a year or zero. You had responsibilities that you took care of.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I had one client who had a psychotic break, and he's schizophrenic, and he ended up being hospitalized for over a year. And then he stepped back in his IT career and took a job that was really below his skill level. And we ended up putting on there full-time Salesforce student, because he spent all that time, in the lower position job. He was spending all his free time studying and getting badge after badge after badge of Salesforce. And so that's his new career. And he's currently looking for that kind of job. So you can be very creative. And if he's asked, what about this gap period? He always just says, I had an illness and I'm recuperated. I'm recovered. I am recovered.
I had a client who was an elderly lady. She's younger than I am, so I don't know if I should call her that. But she, her husband died suddenly, and she was so shattered by that she started drinking and ended up with a drinking problem, and quit her longtime job, moved to Kerrville, I think, and went through an alcoholics rehab program for maybe a year or two before she felt she could go back to work. And so she must have been at least in her 60s. And when people would say, what did you do during this time period? She said, a wonderful thing happened. I found myself in a position where I did not have to work. And I decided to just take advantage of that and do some things I had always wanted to do. And I traveled, and I spent time with family, and I took some courses, and and so you don't know, maybe she got an inheritance, it's nobody's business why you didn't have to work. She just said that. So it's as if she was in charge, and she made the decision that she was going to live her life to the fullest. And she said, and now I've done all of those great things, never mentioned the drinking problem, the rehab, the husband's death, the depression, none of that. She just said, And now I'm ready to get back into the fray and go back to and resume my career. And I'm hoping that it's going to be at this company because I'm very excited about this job. And so
That's great.
you don't have to tell people I had cancer or, I lost both my parents or whatever. It's none of their business.
No,
Just, I had
no,
this
and it's really
opportunity, and I took it.
to say those things to a recruiter is off topic, and it's a Debbie Downer, it's just a downer. So what you want to do is have a happy story to tell. So I have just a few more slides that I want to finish up with, and thank you all for your comments. This has been great. Actually getting a job, I have to tell my clients over and over again, focus more on people connections than on job applications. The more people you bring into your circle, the better. And what I find over and over again is people get jobs from people, they get job leads from people, and they tend to be friends of friends. So you want to go into your LinkedIn connections, find out what friends they have, what linked friends they have, who might be able to help you in the right industry or the right kind of jobs, and ask for an introduction to those people, or just send them an invite on, to link with you and say, I'm a friend of so-and-so, and I noticed that you're a program manager and I'm looking for that kind of job. Would you be willing to have a short phone conversation with me about your company? And then put in your phone number. And my clients find that about 1 out of every 3 people will respond almost immediately. The other thing is, if you want a job, answer your phone. Recruiters call. That is their preferred method of connection. And so please answer your phone. You're going to have to suffer through all the spam stuff and whatever. But I just hang up on the spammers, but I answer my phone because I give out my phone number and I want people to call me. Then schedule yourself professionally. Remember that you want to act professional and act like you used to when you were working full-time. If a recruiter says, starts asking you a lot about your background and so forth, you could say to her, which usually a woman, hey, I have a meeting at the top of the hour. Would it be okay if we set aside another time to talk about this? And then that gives you a chance to go and look up the job and get yourself prepared for that phone screen. Now, I have a process that I help people prepare for phone screens, but there we go. We've got something else going on here.
Agent?
No, thank you. Anyway, but do answer your phone and schedule yourself. If somebody wants to interview you tomorrow and they shoot you a time, if you're not ready to interview, ask them if it could be the next day or the day after. Just allow, and don't tell them why. You owe no explanation. You just, I have an appointment at that time, is the best way to say it. And then this one, this fourth one is really a hard process. You really have to grieve your loss, because you were giving your heart and your time to a job and you lost it. And it is a very real loss. It is an ego hit. It's everything. And so, some people even join grief groups. And and there's usually some corporate trauma that goes along with a job loss. And so you really need to take good care of yourself and really grieve. And then the last one is try not to worry. And I always say, rather than worry, think of something to do that furthers your job process, your job seeking. Keep asking yourself, is there anything I can do today that would get me a job faster? Today. And always try to be as quick as possible. When you see a job, apply for it immediately. Don't wait until tomorrow or the next day or the next day or your next iteration of your resume. Get your name in as fast as you can, because job leads are very fragile. Some companies are putting up jobs for 24 hours, and then they get 100 applications or 100 resumes, and then they take the job down because they feel, if I can't find somebody in 100 applications, then I'm not doing my job right. So they're very fragile. Get your, be Johnny on the spot with applications. Now, these are my standards for a proactive job search. And if you are not meeting these standards, you are not serious about a job, about getting a job. Number one, you should have 7 active job leads. So in other words, you need to have on your spreadsheet where you keep track of your applications, 7 jobs that are still viable, that you haven't heard back yet, you haven't been rejected for yet. And if you lose one, you get that dreaded email from the recruiter, go ahead and get another job in there. Apply for a different job. Now, it only takes 2 serious applications a week. And by applications, I'm talking about you go to the company's website and do that ridiculous thing where you have to copy most of your resume over to their site, but just be okay with that. And so be really mindful of the applications you have made, put them on a spreadsheet with all the contact information and track that. That's one of your active job leads. You can also hit the quick apply button. There was a speaker just a few months ago at Launchpad who said she didn't care how people applied. And she thought the quick apply was just as good as anything else. So go ahead and do that. But if you really, really want the job, go ahead and go to the website and make a formal application. You want to have 2 networking conversations a week. And that usually means you're going to have to connect with 4 people. And then 2 of those people are going to be able to talk to you in a week's time. And then you want to re-invite people and try to get 2 conversations a week. Every networking conversation you have is going to lift your spirits. The more you talk to other people, the better you're going to feel about yourself and your job search. You have to connect with people. Okay, and then you want 7 LinkedIn sessions a week. And what I mean by that is LinkedIn rewards activity. The more activity, the more likely the algorithm is going to put your application at the top. And so you want to go in and do something, anything on LinkedIn. And I actually have a handout, 20 things to do on LinkedIn. But you want to go in every, like literally every day, or those 7 times over 5 days, and then take the weekend off. What I find with social media is that social media seems to be congested during the weekends because people have more time to post, but LinkedIn is a weekday kind of thing. at least I see, better and more posts on the weekdays. So give yourself a break and do your 7 sessions during the 5 days. And then you need your 7-star stories created and ready to go. And I suggest you actually write them out, time them with your smartphone. You should be able to tell your star story in 60 seconds. And so you may actually be able to use a star story in a phone screen, which is really critical, because if you don't pass the phone screen, you don't move on to the next place. So again, keep asking yourself, is there anything I can do today that would get me a job faster? And for those of you who don't know what a star story is, I'm sure that you've probably heard the SOAR story, SOAR. You've heard, what are some of the other terms out there for this kind of story we're talking about, Kathy?
PAR, problem, action, results. SAR,
Yes.
situation, action, results.
Yeah. Basically, it's a mini moment of your wonderful career that proves who you are. And, you know, people can say, I'm a people person, but if you tell a story about helping 2 coworkers who are constantly at each other's throats, and you help them have a new relationship, they know more about you than you could possibly ever explain. That little story can really, it's just amazing. And your star stories will suit for 5 or 6 different purposes. So you don't need more than 7 stories going into an interview. Now, you don't want to forget your family and friends. Remember, it's happening to your family too. I had to constantly remind myself that my hip replacement happened to my husband because suddenly he didn't have his wife. I was not his wife for about 8 weeks. And by that, I mean, I couldn't keep house, I couldn't cook. There were so many things I wasn't capable of doing. So he had new tasks, new duties, and he had a whole new life. And I couldn't drive, so he was driving me to appointments. And so it was really a lot on him. And he had to figure out how to get us from Ketchikan, Alaska, back home with me not being able to walk. I mean, that was a big thing because we'd never had to deal with it. So with your family, stay in touch by phone, text, Zoom, and email. Love on your family. They're going to want to love on you because you're in this situation. Some people are so embarrassed by job loss that they discontinue contact with their family. And that's when you need them the most. Then stay connected with your work friends, and especially work friends from not your immediately former job, but the jobs before that, because those work friends are going to get you your new job leads. And constantly expand your network. There's no reason why you can't meet new people. Go ahead and use Zoom and Google Meets and whatever you want to use to meet people virtually, because people don't have time to go to Starbucks anymore. So this is my website. My job is helping people earn 30 to 50% more in a new challenging job. About half my clients have jobs and the other half are job seeking. But I just wanted to show you up in the corner the free consultation, and I offer that to every single person here on this call, and you can connect with me. And so thank you very much for listening to the ideas about my sofa sabbatical. I'm back at work 100% after 12 weeks. And I don't think I would have come back as fast if I hadn't taken good care of myself. And I think the same thing is true of finding a job. You will actually get a job faster if you take good care of your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual self.